Chapter 4. Rosner, his father calls. I was expecting you to be up before the life giver. Rosner moans as he curls in his bed and throws his blanket over his head. Ever since he cut himself a few weeks ago, working at Casper's has been draining his energy. Last night was especially rough. His movements were sluggish, and his eyes felt cloudy and heavy. And to add to it, Casper continues this sporadically odd habit of hiding Rosner's pay, something that started not long after Rosner cut himself. He questioned the butcher initially, to which all Casper said was, "It was a little more work." He cursed Casper aloud after he realized he had been played again. A moment or two later, Rosner thought he heard a muffled bark of laughter above him. He forced himself to refrain from yelling out of irritation. Instead, Rosner scavenged the room for his well-earned payment. Particularly, in this case, it took Rosner the better part of an hour, and shelves upon shelves and drawers upon drawers, to find the small tanned skin pouch. That twisted-minded, one-legged hooligan stuffed the thing inside a chicken. The only reason Rosner even found it was because Casper had at least had the decency to keep the drawstring hanging out of the bird. When he finally had his prize, Rosner ran home. Once outside, he felt rejuvenated. Rosner's father shouts his name again as his blanket is ripped off him. The boy jumps up in surprise and nearly knocks head with the man. "Oh, I'm sorry, Sorry for what?" his father snaps. "I told you already to get moving, and that is what I expect." With that, he storms out the door to wake Rosner's siblings. For a few seconds, Rosner stares after his father with droopy eyes full of soreness and sorrow. After last night, he had completely forgotten about helping his father the next day, something his siblings and him dread. Once a week, their father takes them to his shipyard to help him clean up. It is not to say none of them mind the cleanup, but once they start the work, their father has a habit of disappearing. Up until a few weeks ago, they were constantly worried, spending more of the day looking for him rather than cleaning. Then, when Rosner pretended to be busy, he managed to trail their father to the forgotten gin. Since then, Rosner has followed whenever their father leaves, curious as to what he could be up to. Last week, Rosner finds himself regretting his decision as he learns the truth. A barmaid. He managed to peek through one of the windows and spot his father talking with the woman whose breasts looked like they were about to pop out of her corset. He did not think anything of it until they pecked each other's lips and then headed upstairs to the bedrooms. That is when he lost all respect for his father. When Rosner finally dresses, he glances through both Kedorik's and Astra's doors and finds them still laying down. He nudges them in turn, telling them they should get moving or their father will be in an even worse mood. Both groan irritably, but nonetheless roll out of their beds. He may not respect his father, but he still fears him. Once they were all in the kitchen, their mother hands them a few chunks of dried bread and a fried egg. She nods at the door, saying, "Go on." Her voice is faint, a telltale sign she did not have a pleasant conversation with their father earlier, but she pushes them out the door before any of them can say anything. The three of them look at the closed door with the hope that it will open again. It does not. Rosner sighs as he turns around and takes a few steps before stopping again. Neither Astra nor Kedorik follow. "Come on, guys. Dad's waiting," Rosner says. "What does that matter?" Astra argues, crossing her arms in front of her chest. "You will just yell at us like always." "And what do you suppose we do then otherwise?" Rosner asks, not disagreeing with her comment. Astra opens her mouth to speak, but says nothing. Her shoulders slump and her head hangs. I do not know," she admits. Then with more vigor she adds, "I just know I do not want to go." Rosner sighs. He takes a step forward and puts a hand on her shoulder. "I know. but we all know it will be worse otherwise. Next to them, Godoric shifts from foot to foot. His open display of uncomfortableness shouts for Rosner to wrap up the conversation by any means. Having witnessed Mars's reign twice less than Astra, he knows his brother should not have to go through this. With a slight movement of his head, Rosner directs his sister's attention to their brother. She does not peer at him for more than a second before returning her attention to Rosner. He sees the strain in her face, but she nods in silent agreement. Once they reach the main road, they stop and glance around. To their left, the snake's den is already alive with its slimy vendors, calling out to the early risers. Every so often a merchant calls out to them, but the three have learned to ignore the allure. In front of them looms the abandoned house, a 3-story building many say is centuries old. Rosner is always drawn to it, but not like how he is to the castle. Whenever he sees it, he cannot help but think that if buildings could turn undead, this is what they would look like. Moss creeps up all 3 stories, holding the broken shutters to the building. In places where moss is absent, mold and rotten wood flourish. In front, the porch pitches towards the house, caves in at the front door. If one wood shaving is removed, Rosner will not be surprised when the whole building collapses. "I hate that house," Astra announces. "It gives me the creeps." Though Rosner does not disagree, he points out she says this every day she sees it. "And I will continue to say it so long as it stands," she declares. Astra is not the only one who does not like it either. Those from the area tend to walk as far away as they can from the building. There is an aura about it that he cannot explain. Once he overheard someone say the house is fed by magic, but haunted is generally accepted and agreed upon by most of the village inhabitants. There are a few, though, that believe it is cursed, which is why the building still stands. No one wants to be the one to take on the curse. It is also the reason no one enters the soldiers' retreat anymore. Well, that and the addition of the Forgotten Djinn a few buildings down. Whatever the case is, Rosner admits it gives off an eerie feel. As he stares at the building, a tingle goes down his spine. He tears his gaze from the house and shakes himself. However, they all know there is more to it than just the house. There is only one person they know that is not hindered by the house's presence. It is a rare sight to see him, but anyone that spots the village's old man avoids him like the plague. It seems fitting, in a sense, since every few cycles someone may see him sitting in a chair on the porch. Last week, he happened to be sitting there when they were going to help their father. Rosner recalls feeling the old man's gaze on them the entire way, like he was peering into their soul. Before he can think too much more of it, Rosner ushers his siblings to continue. Astra gives him a face, but follows. Godoric, however, stays silent. As they approach the Forgotten Djinn, they keep their heads down. The only easy way to reach the shipyard just happens to be a stone's throw behind the tavern, where the Van Meerian soldiers like to relax. Most eye the 3 as they walk past, but make no movement towards them. One rests in the life-giver's light with his head propped up by his helmet. Just when Rosner thinks they are past the soldiers, one emerges from behind the Forgotten Djinn and stumbles over to them, blocking their path. "Where ye think ye's going, you 3? The 3 of them stand there, unsure of what to do. Astra looks at Rosner, but his mind is just as blank. When they do not reply, the soldier's face darkens, and he takes another step towards them. "This here's Van Meeren property. What's 2, 3 up to, eh?" "Hey, Gritch! What the blaze are you doing?" Together, they turn to see their newest party member. The man approaching them is all but thrilled. Around them, the other soldiers straighten themselves out. One even kicks the helmet out from the one on the ground. The man barely looks at the others as he sneers at them. Do not even bother. Even through his drunken stupor, Gritch recognizes him. The soldier attempts to stand straight, but loses his balance. Then he tries to salute, but ends up throwing his left hand over his head and knocking the wind out of himself as his right fist hit his chest. The others stifle laughter. Captain! Gritch wheezes. Captain? Rosner looks the man over. He stands over 6 feet tall. His chest is wider than he has ever seen. Rosner cannot spot a single hair on his face or head. As he thinks about it, the man reminds him of his father, except for the twitching eye and the uniform. A deep blue suit with a few medals on his chest. The captain strides up to the soldier. Is this what you are paid to do? He barks. To drink yourself to the level of a child? And then to harass the occupants of this... I would hardly call this a village. Sir, stutters Gritch, if I these 3 children here... The captain slices his hand through the air. Oh, gods, just shut up. You are not worth anything if I cannot understand you. Return to your quarters where you will remain sober through the rest of this trip. If you do not... The captain pauses before adding, punishment is very real under my command. Gritch's eyes widen in fear. He does another quick, sloppy salute before taking off to the harbor.